G'day guys, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast. Got another best 17 coming your way today. We're going to go with the Brisbane Broncos this afternoon. One of the more interesting sides heading into season 2025. Obviously a lot of drama this offseason with the Ezra Mam saga. We've also had Michael Maguire appointed as the head coach. Kev Walters shown the door. There has been a lot going on, a lot of player movement, a lot happening. Ben Hunt, obviously that saga. He's now arrived at the club, the most experienced halves pairing in the NRL. I'd argue probably right up there with the most experienced halves pairings of all time, full stop. It's going to be a very interesting year for the Brisbane Broncos. Once again, guys, if you would like to join the Roo Crew, the link is in the description. You can watch the video of this content in there, along with every other bit on the Rugby League Guru podcast, all of our extras, our rumours, Supercoach comps, Supercoach stats, all that sort of stuff. You know the routine. Go and join the Roo Crew, $8 a month. Let's get stuck into the Brisbane Broncos. As I said, there's been a lot going on this off-season, and you know what? Usually, where there is noise, there is trouble. I think it just goes hand in hand in rugby league that when there is noise, those teams tend to struggle. It seems to be the case every single year, pretty damn consistently. I look at this Broncos side, though, and despite the noise, I just think Madge could be the right guy to come in there and make it work. I sort of, in the preseason, I thought, you know what, I reckon they'll be a top 4 side. I've probably faded a little bit. I think they'll be a top 8 side. I have got them in my 8, so they'll come from the bottom 8 to the top 8. But I don't really have them as premiership contenders, to be completely honest with you. I think that it's very exciting, these halves, this halves combination and whatnot, but I do think it's going to take a bit of time to gel. They're two pretty dominant ball players. At some point throughout this season, depending on how form goes, Ezra Mam's going to come back in. That's going to create a lot of distraction and not a lot of noise around the Brisbane Broncos. Do you bring him straight back into the side immediately? If Ben Hunt's playing well there and the Broncos are playing well, do you leave him out? If they're not doing well, do you rush him in to try and save the day? Is that going to be the play? It's going to be a very interesting season, and Michael Maguire's got a lot of plates that he needs to balance, because whenever Ezra Mam comes in, and in my opinion, rightly so, it's going to create a lot of noise and there's going to be a lot of controversy and there's got to be a lot of discussion around it. Ezra, realistically, I think when he gets back on the field, I think he's going to be met with a lot of boos. There's going to be a lot going on there, and it's going to be interesting to see how it impacts this Brisbane Broncos side. So this is the side that I've got for them. At fullback, obviously, Reece Walsh. Very keen to see how he goes under Madge. I think that in the Origin arena, Madge handled him incredibly well, and I think it sort of knocked his confidence around a little bit, obviously, after game 1 last year. So Ali had the high tackle, the slip into the high tackle. But I think it's interesting that Madge had so much time to study this guy, because I was looking at that Queensland side last year before game 1 going, I think Walsh is the guy we actually need to stop here, the guy that we need to keep under wraps. So Madge would have probably done more homework on Walsh than just about anyone. So I'm keen to see how he's able to transition from going against Walsh and trying to pick out his weaknesses to now strengthening his weaknesses and how he fits with Benny Hunt and Adam Reynolds and stuff. Very, very keen to watch how Walsh's game changes this year. On the wings, I would be moving Selwyn Cobbo back to the wing. I think it is his best position. I sort of said it when he moved there that I thought wing was his best position. I think he did okay at centre. I don't think it was like a train wreck or anything by any means, but I do think wing is his best spot. So Selwyn, he'd be moving back to the right wing for me. Left wing, Jesse Arthurs. I thought his grand final a couple of years ago was tremendous. I think he had a few injuries and whatnot last year, but he is a guy that I really like. Works hard coming out of his own end, solid. Jesse Arthurs will be the other winger for me. In the centres, on the right side with Selwyn Cobbo, I'm going to partner Cobbo and Staggs back up. I'm so keen to see what happens with Staggs this year. My biggest concern, my biggest criticism of Staggs over the years has been he simply doesn't do enough work out of his own end. He doesn't get his hands on the football enough. He is not involved enough. I just can't see Madge giving him the pass like Kev Walters did, where it's, you know what, mate, you touch it 9 times a game, that's okay. When you look at the way that Madge coached Origin, the sort of outside backs that he picked, they all did work coming out of their own end. Your Totos, your Lomaxes, your Critters, these sort of guys, your Bradman Bests of the world. I just can't see Staggs getting a pass from coach to touch the ball in single digits. It just seems ridiculous to me. The other centre, I'm going to go with Dean Mariner. I'm not convinced whether wing or centre is his best spot yet. I'm a little bit undecided, but I think he's simply too good to leave out of this side. So I'm going to pick him at left centre there. Obviously a spot that's been hard to fill for the Brisbane Broncos ever since Herbie left. I'm keen to see how Mariner goes this year. So that's my backline: Walsh, Cobbo, Staggs, Mariner and Jesse Arthurs. The halves, they pick themselves. Adam Reynolds at halfback, Ben Hunt at 6. Probably the most experienced halves pairing we've seen in a long, long time off the dome. I can't think of another one that would be more experienced than those two. Adam Reynolds got a bit of an injury at the moment. I'm hearing mixed reports that Adam Reynolds is good to go. He'll play trials. I'm hearing that he could miss the first 3 or 4 weeks. I'm hearing that he's hesitant to return. I have no idea what's going up there at Brisbane and what's going on with Adam Reynolds. So the beauty for the Brisbane Broncos is that even if Reynolds is out, they've got Ben Hunt who can slide into halfback. Billy Walters probably jumps into the 5'8" role and they will be okay. I do think it's going to be interesting. I spoke about this last year with Hunt and Trindle, and people told me I was fucking crazy in the preseason. These are 2 dominant ball players that are going to have to gel together. Yes, they're some of the most experienced guys in the game, but they have always been the main guys in their football team, and they're going to have to sort of share that role. And, obviously with a fullback like Reece Walsh, he gets plenty of pill as well. So something's going to have to give somewhere, and I'm very keen to see how it plays out. Ben Hunt doesn't know anything other than playing an entire brand of footy built around Ben Hunt for the last decade. I know in the Origin Arena he comes in and does it, but I'm keen to see how it does play out in Clubland. I think there's going to be a few more teething issues than what people are expecting, but I still think that they'll be a top 8 side with these halves. Forward pack. Look, it's been the talk of the town this preseason, what the Broncos are going to do with their forward pack. And look, the decisions that they have made, honestly, I don't really push back on them. I think they'll be fine. It's not what I would do, but I think it's much of a muchness. If I was picking the forward pack, I'd have Payne Haas. He's an automatic lining up in the front row. I would have him paired with Corey Jensen, and I would have Billy Walters in the 9 jersey. That's what I would do. It sounds like they're going to play Pat Carrigan in the front row, which I think you're missing a lot there. But obviously, or I would assume, Hetherington's got a bit more ball playing to him than what I'm aware of. I just think whenever you move Pat Carrigan out of the lock role for the Broncos, it looks a little bit disheveled. And with new halves coming in and Ezra Mam coming in mid-season and maybe Adam Reynolds missing the start of the season, I think I would go for a bit of continuity, but Michael Maguire knows better than me. So my side would be Haas and Jensen in the front row, and I would have Pat Carrigan in jersey 13. My edges are Per Cura and Jordan Ricky. I think they are the 2 best back rowers at the club. I don't think either of them has hit anywhere near their full potential yet. I think Jordan Ricky has improved over the last few years. I had a lot of concerns about him 2 or 3 years ago, if I'm completely honest, and I was back then. I do think that a guy like Madge coming in is going to be fantastic for him. Per Cura, a couple of injuries and whatnot last year that sort of held him back, but I still think we're a long way away from his potential. I'm not sure if we're going to see it in 25, but I think he's a player the Broncos are going to want to hold on to because he could be a very, very special talent. So that's my forward pack as it stands, guys. I would play Carrigan in jersey 13, but I also can really see the merit in having Pat Carrigan in the front row just for the reason that when he comes off, you're then bringing on a Jensen, who's a guy that I know can hold that standard. At the moment, with me at Pat Carrigan in jersey 13, I do look at the bench that I've got, and I'll go through it in a moment, but I do have my concerns that there's going to be an enormous drop-off in that 30-minute mark, and I think if you are looking to properly compete in this competition, you cannot have that huge drop-off anymore. So from that point of view, I completely get the move of Carrigan into the front row. I can make 100% sense of it, and I can see a lot of positives. As I said, guys, this team list is not a hill that I'll die on by any means. There's other teams that I flat out think clubs are making bad decisions. The Broncos, I can 100% make sense of it. When I get to the bench, my jersey 14 would be Blake Moser. I think that he would be my guy to play 50-odd minutes. I think I would bring Billy Walters off after about 25-30. Once he gets through the tough stuff there, I'd bring Moser on, and then I'd be happy to have Walters as sort of my utility for the rest of the game. He can cover multiple positions, do many things. I think it'd be a good little fit there. My bench at the moment, I have Willison, Hetherington, and then that last jersey, you're probably looking at a Takura, a Hunt, a Tapau, and that's where I'm not confident with. You could also have a Fletcher Baker there. Honestly, whoever's in jersey 17 out of those guys, I'm not confident week to week. I feel safe with them doing a job. So that is my concern. That's where I do think swapping Hetherington into the 13 and bringing Jensen onto the bench, I think it could be very big for the Broncos. So that's where I stand at the moment, guys. I think even Willison, he's sort of a guy that I'm happy to put in the side straight away. He left a lot to be desired last year at certain points. So I do have my concerns about that. I think that if they were to have a key injury to a Haas or a Carrigan or a Jensen, I have concerns about them through the middle. I think it pushes Payne Haas to play enormous minutes and just turn into Iron Man every fucking week. I do have my concerns there. There's no doubt about it. All right, that's my 17. My extended squad, when I have a look at the depth they've got, there's a lot here. You've obviously got Kobe Black, young ball player in the halves. You've got Ezra Mam, who will come back at some point, and that could be where the Broncos season starts realistically. How they handle the noise around that, I think will be the most important thing, because there will be plenty of it, and rightly so as well. So we'll see how that plays out for the Broncos. Deloise Hoyter also didn't make my side, a guy that I really like. Karapani, another fella that I like. You've also got Josh Rogers in the squad as well, who's a guy that I've talked about for quite some time. I don't think he's a starting first grade ball player, but I think he's a really good band-aid to have to come in and do a job, especially with an experienced ball player with either Reynolds or Ben Hunt. So I think he's worth having. You got Fletcher Baker, who I'm still not convinced on. You got Tyson Smoothie. The other man is Corey Pakes. Now, for me, I wrote this team a few weeks ago, and I had Walters and Moser. Apparently, Corey Pakes has jumped back up, and apparently he's every chance to start round one. So, obviously, guys, I haven't been up there in Brisbane watching every single training session and watching how guys are going and how they've returned and whatnot. I'm just going off the information that I have, but it sounds like Corey Pakes could be the starting 9 for the Broncos. Personally, and I know this is probably unfair to one of Pakes or Walters, I just think it's time to get Moser into this side, and I think he has to be in jersey 14. I'm happy to run with Pakes or Walters in jersey 9, but if one of them isn't going to play jersey 9, they're probably not in my side, because I just think it is time they need to get Moser into this football team. I think he's been pretty patient so far, and I think that if he has to be patient any longer, there's every chance he could leave the club, and I think that'd leave the Broncos in a real hole. Love Walters, love Pakes. They are not franchise hookers that you build around. That's just the reality of it. Blake Moser could be. So that's how I see it, guys. Once again, if you read all the reports and everything coming out of the Broncos, it sounds like their side will be Walsh, Cobbo on the wing, Arthurs on the other side, Staggs and Mariners in the centres, Hunt at 5'8", Adam Reynolds at halfback. If Adam Reynolds isn't available for the first few rounds, which it sounds like there's every chance, Hunt will play halfback, Billy Walters will jump into 5'8". That means that Corey Pakes will be the hooker. So whether Corey Pakes is actually the hooker in front or whether Billy Walters has just been playing 5'8", so Pakes has jumped in at 9, I'm not too sure. I think that they will obviously go with Hetherington in jersey 13. I think that's all but confirmed. Carrigan in the front row and Jensen to come off the bench. And then I think it'll all come down to trials as far as which of those collection of 8 forwards get a spot to join Jensen on the bench there. So plenty to watch up at the Broncos throughout this preseason. They don't play a trial this weekend. They play one next weekend. So stay tuned for that. Very keen to watch that forward pack and see how they go. As I said, guys, I think the Broncos will do well this year. I think they will make the top 8. I've got them in the 6, 7, 8 range. I don't think they'll be a top 4 side. I think their entire season is going to be defined by how they handle all the noise. And there's been a lot of it with Ben Hunt coming back, the New South Wales coach coaching the Broncos. But the biggest one will be when Ezra Mam arrives, how the club and how the players deal with that situation and how Ezra responds to it as well. It might even be a case if he becomes available and we don't see Ezra for the rest of the year. And if Ben Hunt's playing well, I can totally make sense of that. Sometimes you don't need to fix what's not broken, and we'll see how it all plays out. But yeah, I think how the Broncos deal with the noise that's going to be around the club this year will go a long way to defining season 2025.